From an outsider's perspective, it really does seem that Sézane is a brand that is just exploding in popularity. They now have 21 stores in 11 different locations across the world, 4.2 million followers on their Instagram account, and it seems that more and more celebrities and influencers are promoting and endorsing the brand. However, as you peel back the curtain on certain corners of the internet, whether it's the Reddit page, which now has over 17,000 members, the many Sézane Facebook groups, or even certain videos now cropping up more and more often on YouTube, you'll notice there's this growing resentment building, particularly among those who were once Sézane's most loyal fan base. In today's video, I want to delve a little bit deeper into understanding where this resentment is coming from, the most common causes of complaints and concerns, and my own personal opinions on whether it might be finally time to break up with Sézane. Firstly, we need to talk about decline in quality and the diversion from their once slow fashion, sustainable brand roots to a much more fast-paced, fast fashion business model. You really don't have to spend that long researching this topic, unfortunately, to uncover the growing number of complaints people have about the quality of the garments they're receiving. The most common causes of complaint I've seen are people receiving garments that are stained, dirty, clearly worn, frayed, have holes in them, and even shoes falling apart after just a few wears, items unraveling, garments just not being up to the standard that people expect for the high price tags they're paying. I recently had my own experience with a pair of Sézane earrings that fell apart after just a couple of wears, and these are £80 earrings. So it's clear to me, at least, as someone who's been shopping from the brand for over 5 years now, that the quality and the lack of quality control has definitely been declining. The second part of this argument, and I would argue the more important and more concerning part, is their move from the slow fashion brand that they once were, that they were established as, to a more regular, everyday, fast fashion brand. This is evidenced in a few different ways. Clearly, the quantity of clothing that they're producing is increasing, and increasing at what I would consider quite an alarming rate. There was a time, not even that long ago, I'm talking as recent as 2022, where I could name pretty much every single Sézane item on their website. If you showed me a picture of a Sézane item, I could tell you what that item was called. This is no longer the case. There are so many new styles, so many new items uploaded to the website every week, every month, that I can no longer name half of the items on their website, and I've never even seen or heard of half the items and the styles that they're releasing now. Back when I started shopping with Sézane, they may have released a new collection every month. It definitely wasn't just one per season, but it certainly wasn't multiple drops every week, and that is what I feel like we have now. We have a new collection of some sort every Sunday, with new items released on a Wednesday as well, and then sometimes these collections are fairly small, just a handful of new items, but I would say at least twice a month there is a big kind of new collection drop. Occasional lapses in quality control, and even to a certain extent the increase in the use of synthetic fibres, which we'll get onto in a second, are both things that I can somewhat overlook as a fan of the brand to a certain extent, and have even defended the brand against when people have brought it up in my comment section beforehand. However, this sheer volume and this sheer increase in the quantity of clothing that they keep pumping out is just something that I cannot overlook anymore. Let's talk a little bit about synthetic fibres, because this is something that I've gone back and forth about time and time again, and it is something, as I said, I have somewhat defended them for in the past, but something that I am slowly changing my opinion of as they seem to use more and more of them in their collections at the moment. One of the reasons I've overlooked it in the past is because I do think that you are very hard pressed to find brands at the price point of Sézane that offer the range of natural fibres and the quality of natural fibres that Sézane do in certain pieces on their website. There are certain garments, especially in their knitwear and their outerwear collections, that I think are really worth the money and I think are excellent quality and excellent fibres for the price point. However, As I was scrolling the summer collection recently, which I have not been interested in, I haven't bought anything from, I was seeing more and more polyester, and I'm not the only one to express this concern. There are loads of items in there that I would 100% expect to be made of cotton, to be made of natural fibres, especially in summertime where we want breathable fabrics, that when I clicked on them were 100% polyester or recycled polyester. Something that really shocked me recently and further emphasised my desire to step back from purchasing from the brand was going onto Vinted the other day, searching Sézane. I love to shop Sézane secondhand, especially on Vinted. I typed in Sézane and I've never noticed before, but at the top of the search results, it tells you how many items appear under that search result. And under the search result Sézane, there were over 400,000 items currently listed for sale on Vinted. This floored me because this is just Vinted, and it's just Vinted in the UK. This is not the US market. This is not the rest of Europe. This is not across the world. This is Vinted in the UK for sale currently, over 400,000 individual items. To me, this is problematic for a couple of different reasons. Firstly, there is really no excuse or no need to buy new Sézane items anymore if there are over 400,000 available secondhand in the UK alone. Secondly, if the Sézane clothing we're buying really is what it's marketed to be and what we often think of it as, wardrobe essentials, French girl staples, items that we will have in our wardrobes for years and years and years, wardrobe investments, whatever you want to call it. If that is really true, then why are so many people selling their Sézane items on Vinted? If these really were clothes that were destined to be and were designed to last in our wardrobes for years and even decades, why would there be so much available on the secondhand market? And I understand people's tastes change. People change sizes, people downsize, they move house, they sell old things to make way for new. But even so, if these clothes were as perfect and as amazing as we all think they are, why are there so many that are being sold at a fraction of the cost that they were originally purchased for? Now, it's common knowledge that Sézane use very few plus size and mid-size models. They do have token models of slightly different sizes that they use occasionally, but more often than not, the majority of the models that they use on their Instagram and in their brand photography and their clothing photography are very thin women. And I guess I shouldn't complain because this is probably one of the reasons that channels like mine have grown to be so popular, people searching out for what this clothing looks like on regular women. Another little niggle I have when it comes to diversity, and something I've not really heard other people mention but has always bugged me, is their Girls in Sézane hashtag or their You Wear It Best hashtag. And if you don't know what this is where occasionally, sometimes they do this on a weekly basis, sometimes more on a monthly basis, they will post a carousel of photos to their main Instagram page showing different people wearing Sézane. So regular people like you and I who have tagged them on Instagram, on social media, wearing their clothes, they will choose a handful of those photos of those people and repost them as a carousel to their Instagram page. And if you look through the carousels, what is the one thing you notice? That it seems to be thin woman, pregnant woman, thin woman, pregnant woman. They seem to post a hell of a lot of pregnant women in their clothing, and there's nothing wrong with this, by the way. I think it's great that they're showing pregnant women can still wear Sézane, but what they don't show is plus size women or mid-size women. It's either a thin woman or a pregnant thin woman. And this is something that I've spoken about with a few people, and it's just something I've noticed, and you will see it as a theme. If you go through their previous collections of Girls in Sézane carousels, there are virtually no mid-size or plus-size women in there. And they have over 4 million followers on their Instagram. They have hundreds, if not thousands and thousands of girls tagging them in their posts every single day. And you're telling me that there are more pregnant women tagging them in their posts than mid-size and plus-size women? I don't believe that for a second. Overall, I just think this take is quite outdated, and it shows that Sézane aren't keeping up with the marketing trends and what people expect to see when it comes to brands and who they repost and what kind of models they use in 2024. The final point I want to touch on in this video is Sézane's use of influencers and influencer marketing to promote their products. And as an influencer myself, a content creator, kind of give you a little bit more of a behind the scenes look at why they do this and why some people don't like this and why this actually puts them off buying from Sézane altogether. Now, I've mainly seen these complaints on the Reddit thread, people's growing resentment over Sézane's use of influencers, and more so just the sheer volume of influencers that they seem to be gifting free clothes to. And it kind of waters down the appeal of Sézane to some people and actually makes them less likely to buy their clothes because they don't really want to spend their hard-earned money on clothing that so many influencers are just getting for free. I do want to make it clear that I have never been approached by Sézane to receive gifting from them or to create content on a paid basis from them. All of the content I've made has been completely off my own back, everything I've purchased myself. And actually, I do find this quite surprising, not to toot my own horn or anything, but the amount of videos I've made, the number of views that I've obtained on my channel that are related to Sézane. I've seen influencers with 2,000 followers on Instagram and that is it, no YouTube presence, no TikTok, receive gifting from them. I've seen, again, people with 3,000, 5,000 followers on Instagram receive gifting from them. And I never have. I have about 3,000 followers on Instagram. I have obviously 13,000 followers now on YouTube. And I've been making Sézane content long before many of these influencers were. And I do think maybe that's why. I think maybe because I've been doing the work for free, they haven't felt the need to gift me things. Maybe it's because I'm too honest. Maybe it's because I've made a couple of negative or critical videos about Sézane in the past. I don't know. But I do understand people's frustration because the way Sézane uses influencers in particular is on a mass scale. So the vast majority of their influencer marketing is not done on a paid basis. It is done on a gifted basis, which means they're reaching out to influencers of all sizes. As I said, I've seen people with 2,000 followers on Instagram receive gifting from Sézane. I've seen people with obviously hundreds of thousands of followers also receiving the same gifting. So size is not necessarily a factor. They like to do it to as many influencers as possible, really to get the word out, I guess, to get as many people talking about them on Instagram, on TikTok as possible. And they usually do this through an allowance, I believe. So they'll give an allowance to an influencer maybe a few times a year or every season. They get to pick out $500, $1,000 worth of clothing, and then they can show that clothing on their social media. There are very few influencers that they actually pay to make content. And interestingly, when I see the influencers who are paid to make Sézane content, some of the most popular ones that I see regularly are the Anna Edit, Lily Pebbles, Lizzie Hadfield. These are all influencers that when I look at them and I look at their personal style, it is not very reflective or similar to the style of Sézane and the aesthetic, that French girl aesthetic, almost bohemian aesthetic of Sézane. Often these influencers have a more minimal, almost Scandinavian chic kind of feel to them, plain neutral colours, oversized, quite masculine silhouettes. If you think of Lizzie Hadfield, the Anna Edit, all of the clothing they wear is quite neutral, it's quite plain, it's quite minimal. And that isn't really the branding that Sézane has, the aesthetic that Sézane has. So I do find it interesting that the influencers they're choosing to pay to promote their brand are not really influencers, in my opinion, that represent the aesthetic and the vibe of Sézane as a whole. But getting back to the original point, I can definitely empathize with people when they say that they are reluctant to spend money at Sézane nowadays because they see so many influencers being gifted this clothing for free. Their use of influencers is definitely more widespread than at many other brands. As always on my channel, I want to hear from you. I want to hear what you think. Are you still an avid Sézane fan, or do you agree with some of the criticism in this video, both from myself and from other Sézane fans as well? Do you still shop with them? Will you continue to shop with them? Or are you also taking a step back? I would love to hear from you, especially if you've been a fan of the brand for a number of years now, if you remember what it was like beforehand. Do you think it really has changed for the worse? Do you think the quality has decreased, the quantity has increased? I'd love to hear your thoughts. As for me personally, am I going to be taking a step back from the brand? Yes. Do I think I will ever buy anything from them again? Probably yes. I think partly for me it is also seasonal. I never really enjoy their spring and their summer collections as much as their autumn winter collections, so I don't anticipate myself buying anything until September rolls around, and then if I see anything in the autumn winter collection that really kind of sparks my interest, I might make a purchase. But do I think I'm going to be focusing mostly on second-hand Sézane from now on? Absolutely. I still want to make some Sézane videos for you, and I really want to help you to determine which pieces are worth buying, because as I said in the video earlier, I do still think there are certain pieces in certain fabrics that are way above the rest when it comes to other brands at similar price points. There are some pieces in their knitwear collections, in their outerwear collections, that I really do think are some of the best that you can buy at that price point. So I want to continue to promote those and to help you understand and decipher between the good, the bad, and the ugly of Sézane overall. But I have now built up this platform where I have the opportunity to use my platform and my audience for better, and I would so much rather be promoting smaller brands, brands that I really think are doing it right when it comes to fashion, brands that I can really wholeheartedly support without having these little niggles in the back of my mind that actually I don't agree with all of their practices. Brands like Christy Dawn, for example, brands like Pink City Prints that I just talked about in my latest video, brands that are hand-making small batches of clothing in ethical conditions, really putting their money where their mouth is. I want to use my platform to encourage you and to help you discover more of those brands. So if you'd like content like that in the future, let me know. But it doesn't mean that I'm going to be completely cutting out Sézane forever. I think there's a balancing act to be had, and I'm hoping I can kind of gradually move towards achieving that on my channel in the future. Please do like this video if you did find it informative and interesting and enjoyable to watch. It really helps my channel out. I will also leave the sources that I used down in the description box below, so if you would like to read some of the articles, some of the Reddit threads that I've mentioned and I've shown on screen, you can do that in the description box as well. Otherwise, I hope you all have a lovely weekend and a lovely start of your week next week. I will see you all on my channel for my next video very shortly. If you can't wait until then, I will leave a couple of videos on screen for you to continue watching after this one. Otherwise, I will see you very soon in my next video. Bye!